Good evening, I'm Klaudia Czerwińska and you're watching World News Tonight live from Warsaw. Kyiv is now striking Russian oil refineries nearly every day, said Volodymyr Zelensky after his request for Tomahawk missiles was turned down by U.S. President Donald Trump. With the Trump-Putin summit in Budapest pending, Ukraine is dealing with relentless attacks the best way it can by hitting Russia where it really hurts. And we are starting with our top story of today. Friday's meeting between Presidents Trump and Zelensky could have changed everything, but it didn't, as Ukrainian hopes of U.S. Tomahawk deliveries were once again put on the back burner. An exchange of fire continues on both sides. The difference? While Ukraine targets oil infrastructure, Russia is relentlessly pounding civilian targets. And yet, when the Trump administration withholds sanctions against the obvious aggressor, Ukrainian-style sanctions seem to be doing the job. Anastasiia Yanchenko explains how.
This is Shapland in eastern Ukraine. The Russian army launched more drone attacks at the city, targeting residential buildings. Saturday night, 11 people were injured.
We managed to grab our documents and nothing else. Everyone is scared, but at least we are alive.
This week alone, Russia has used more than 3,000 strike drones, 1,000 guided aerial bombs, and nearly 50 missiles of various types against Ukraine. It was one of the heaviest weeks of attacks on the country. The strikes escalated as President Zelensky met U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House. The meeting did not end in Ukraine's favor.
But for today, it's good again that he didn't say no.
However, Trump did not say yes either to a deal on the delivery of Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine.
It was a major blow to Zelensky and a major blow to Ukraine as things were going in Zelensky's favor. Zelensky walked out empty-handed, and that is precisely the outcome that Russia wanted.
A day before meeting Zelensky, U.S. President Donald Trump held a phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin, reportedly initiated by the Kremlin. The call followed suggestions by Donald Trump that he consider delivering Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. Trump appeared to have changed his mind again. But experts believe the missiles could now be used as a leverage in talks with Putin.
Putin took that bait. So Trump looks at these capabilities as a bargaining chip, as a manipulation tactic, not as a critical capability that Ukraine's survival could potentially depend on.
Around 3 weeks ago, Trump suggested he believed Ukraine could win back the territories occupied by Russia. Now he says the conflict should be frozen along the current front line.
I believe Putin believes he probably has reached his high watermark. He can't press any further. He wants to retain what he has. He also knows that by virtue of getting a Tomahawk missile to Ukraine, that those borders could be pushed back towards Russia, possibly all the way into Russia.
Despite not receiving the long-range missiles, Ukraine continues its campaign of striking oil refineries in Russia, causing a gasoline shortage across the country. On Sunday, videos from Russia appeared on social media showing kilometer-long lines at gas stations.
Every day or every other day, there are strikes on Russian oil refineries, and this works as a way of shaking Russia back to reality.
Damage to this kind of infrastructure has cost Russia about $70 billion in revenue losses in 2025. With every new attack, these losses continue to grow, causing the Russian war machine to start malfunctioning.
The only way to get them to stop attacking is to deny them capability. And right now, that's sanctions, Ukrainian style, on Russian oil.
For TVP World, Anastasiia Yanchenko.
Was Donald Trump's Gaza peace deal too good to be true? With new alleged breaches of the ceasefire by both Hamas and the Israeli Defense Forces, the relief for Gazans could be short-lived. Is there still hope for the ceasefire's second stage to materialize? Paweł Trzaskowski has more on the Gazan-Israeli powder keg in his latest report.
Clashes in southern Gaza have rocked the foundations of a fragile ceasefire on Sunday. Today, terrorists attacked IDF troops operating in accordance with the ceasefire agreement. This is a significant violation of the ceasefire agreement. The IDF has begun striking terrorist infrastructure to eliminate the threat. The ceasefire requires Gaza's demilitarization. Hamas must go.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered decisive action against Hamas terrorists. This escalation adds to the warnings that Hamas is preparing to violate the ceasefire, turning on the citizens of Gaza.
The United States has informed the guarantor nations of the Gaza peace agreement of credible reports indicating an imminent ceasefire violation by Hamas against the people of Gaza.
Executions of residents in Gaza are already being carried out by Hamas. On the other hand, Gaza accuses Israel of violating the ceasefire nearly 50 times, including shelling a bus, which killed several people.
My daughter, her children and her husband, my son, his children and his wife were all killed. What did they do wrong? They were little.
The tension mounts as tentative steps of the peace plan are still being taken. A convoy with remains of 2 more Israeli hostages arrived in Tel Aviv late Saturday evening. A total of 12 bodies have been returned so far, along with all 20 remaining living hostages. 16 more bodies are yet to be recovered, but Hamas claims it needs technical assistance to retrieve them. Bulldozers are currently digging through the rubble in Gaza in search of the remains. This is why trucks loaded with aid for Gaza are still waiting at the Rafah crossing.
I am here carrying tents for our brothers in Gaza because winter is coming. God protect them and us all.
Israel says it will only allow the crossing to open once all the bodies have been returned. The aid that trickles in through other channels is a drop in the ocean.
I went home and heard that 8 trucks were arriving, so I went to get some things for my children. But this is not the way. I wish it could come through official channels.
The return of all bodies of hostages and an unrestricted flow of aid to Gaza are the 2 remaining steps in the first phase of the 20-point ceasefire agreement. Negotiations on the second phase will only begin once they are fulfilled, and if the ceasefire holds. Paweł Trzaskowski for TVP World.
Could the Chinese vision of a polar Silk Road bypassing Suez Canal and shortening the distance between Asia and Europe become reality? It seemed much closer as the new cargo ship Istanbul Bridge reached Europe from China in only 18 days, considerably shorter than through the pre-existing route. But there are challenges to overcome before this plan can crystallize. Natalia Oriol tells us why.
After a pioneering voyage, a commercial container ship from China has reached Europe through the Arctic, a route previously sealed by ice. The Istanbul Bridge, carrying over 40,000 tons of cargo, sailed from Ningbo near Shanghai, reaching Europe in just 18 days, nearly half the time required to travel through the Suez Canal. Its final stop, the port of Gdańsk. The so-called Northern Sea Route runs along Russia's Arctic coast, and it's opening up faster than anyone predicted. Climate change has melted vast stretches of sea ice, transforming a once frozen frontier into a potential new artery for global trade. Now we know it can be done, but the geopolitical and environmental stakes are enormous. Russia controls most of the Arctic route and boasts the world's largest icebreaker fleet, including several nuclear-powered vessels. China, meanwhile, promotes what it calls the Polar Silk Road, a vision of connecting Asia and Europe while bypassing the Suez Canal.
There is a possibility to use international waters exclusively, but this trip was also through the waters to which there are Russian claims. Russians consider partially Northern Sea route as internal waters, and they want to regulate everything which is connected with the navigation via these routes, and they provide icebreak assistance, which is also obviously paid. So there are disputes.
For Europe and Poland, the route could in theory cut delivery times in half and boost cargo traffic to northern ports such as Gdańsk and Gdynia. But unpredictable ice, costly icebreaker escorts and growing geopolitical tensions mean the Arctic shortcut may remain more of a symbol than a solution.
Arctic navigation is not for all categories of ship only for the specially designed ship and quite well-prepared crew. Conditions are still very harsh and environment is unfriendly toward shipping. Navigation is possible during the summer without assistance of icebreakers.
The arrival of the Istanbul Bridge in Gdańsk marks a milestone in maritime history and serves as a stark reminder that melting ice is not just opening new trade routes, it's also reshaping our planet. Natalia Oriol, TVP World, Gdańsk.
In what may have been the largest mass demonstration in the United States since 1970s, Saturday's No Kings protest filled the streets with over 2,500 communities across the U.S. Protesters listed the rule of law, civil rights, and constitutional protections among their concerns. Randy Potts reports on the latest developments from the U.S.
Millions of people, between 4 and 7 million, according to ABC News, gathered to protest President Donald Trump's policies on Saturday in cities across the U.S., including New York, Washington, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Saturday's protest was the second of its kind. The No Kings Coalition first gained prominence in June with nationwide demonstrations on Donald Trump's birthday. From Boston, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. Protests took place in over 2,500 American cities, all reportedly peaceful. A separate rally, which blocked the entrance to an ICE facility in L.A., was dispersed by police.
The majority of the No Kings protests have dispersed at this time, and all traffic closures have been lifted. We had more than 100,000 people across all 5 boroughs peacefully exercising their First Amendment rights, and the NYPD made 0 protest-related arrests.
Protesters said they had many reasons for attending the No Kings protests.
The government's a mess right now. They aren't following the laws. They're getting more and more brazen about doing whatever they want, no matter what the law says.
I think silence is no longer acceptable. It's important to say, this is who I am and this is what I believe. And I believe all these people here today feel the same.
Ahead of the demonstrations, Trump allies condemned what they called the Hate America rally, and then, during the protests, several White House-affiliated social media accounts posted this video that must be censored due to its graphic content. The video goes on to portray the president dumping what looks like human waste on protesters in Times Square, New York. Among them, war veterans.
I can't sit idly by why rights are trampled on and ignored, and people are pushed and treated like second-class citizens.
For TVP World, Randy Potts.
Paris awoke to alarming news coming straight from one of the world's most beloved museums. A group of thieves managed to get away with 9 pieces from Paris's Louvre Museum's Napoleon and the Empress jewelry collection. Now the chase to find the culprits continues, as in the words of Interior Minister Laurent Nunez, the value of stolen items is inestimable given their historical significance.
Police in Paris suspect that this is the crane that was used on Sunday morning in one of the biggest heists of the century. In an operation that reportedly lasted mere minutes, a group of thieves was able to get away with 9 pieces from Paris's Louvre Museum's Napoleon and the Empress jewelry collection.
We came immediately, a couple of minutes after we received news of this robbery. This operation lasted almost 4 minutes. It was very swift. It leads us to believe we're dealing with professionals.
Interior Minister Laurent Nunez described the value of the stolen items as inestimable. The thieves struck at about 9:30 a.m. local time when the museum had already opened its doors to the public and entered the Galerie d'Apollon building, which is home to the French crown jewels. The capers then escaped through the Louvre's underground passages and made their getaways on motor scooters. One of the thieves is also said to have dropped an item of loot in the mad dash.
During the escape, a jewel was dropped and later found below the Louvre Museum, and now it's being evaluated. The investigation is in progress.
According to French daily Le Parisien, this is likely the item in question, the crown of Napoleon's wife, Empress Eugénie. According to the newspaper, it was found damaged. Among the other items snatched were a necklace, a brooch, and a tiara, but the exact pieces have not yet been disclosed by the museum.
J'imagine que
I imagine that there must have been some collector who contracted the heist, as these are not items one can just go out and sell very easily due to their inestimable value.
The world's most famous museum, the Louvre, has been the target of numerous heists over the centuries. The most famous of them took place in 1911, when the Mona Lisa vanished from its frame, removed by Vincenzo Peruggia, who had walked it out of the museum, hidden under his coat.
Ces pièces sont trop connues. These pieces are too well known, too publicized. It's a bit like when the Mona Lisa was stolen. You see, the thief at the time didn't realize the magnitude of his act, and in fact, the Mona Lisa was found under his bed. It was completely unsaleable, as are these pieces, aside from the precious metals they're made of.
Now, many do worry that the thieves may want to melt down the items in an attempt to sell the metals and gems alone, which would be an historical and cultural tragedy. Investigators across France and the world are now on the hunt for the culprits. For TVP World, I'm Konrad Gorlinski.
And now get ready for a peek into life in the Polish mountains, where one particular tradition has stolen hearts of generations of visitors. The full trailing of the sheep is not only a Highlander tradition, but also a unique spectacle that has been attracting mountain lovers to southern Poland for years. Roads are blocked as traffic stops just to make passage for hundreds of sheep and their shepherds. Gabriela Jelonek has the story.
This is one of the most spectacular events in the Polish mountains, Redyk, or the trailing of the sheep. It's a moment when shepherds bring their sheep and goats from the mountain pastures back to the valleys, marking the end of the grazing season. It starts at the beginning of October, and this year will finish on October 25 in Czarny Dunajec. The longest route is 180 km long and takes 6 days to march. Traditionally, it's the Bata, the senior sheep herder, who wrangles all the sheep belonging to different owners in the village, assembling them into a single shared flock numbering hundreds of sheep. Each is marked for identification, and at the end of the season, they are returned to their owners.
Now they can get fed, so they won't be hungry at night. And in the morning, they'll be led to their owners so everyone can take their own.
Redyk is accompanied by colorful processions, music, regional costumes, and a unique atmosphere that attracts both locals and tourists from all over Poland. But it's not just a sheep parade, it's a true celebration of Highland culture. It's also an opportunity to taste some regional delicacies. The end of the season also means the end of the production of oscypek, traditional Polish Highland cheese protected by the European Union certificate of regional products, called the Protected Designation of Origin.
The sheep had to be milked twice a day, at 4 a.m. and in the afternoon around 1:30 p.m.
The Polish mountains are welcoming visitors all year round with all the treasures they offer. But Redyk is a one-of-its-kind experience and will last only until the end of October. The next opportunity to witness the unique spectacle will come in the spring, when the shepherds trail their sheep back to the mountains. For TVP World, Gabriela Jelonek.
And now we bring you an exclusive insight into the work of the Icelandic Coast Guard. Our correspondent Kazimierz Łysiak tagged along on an overnight training mission on a search and rescue helicopter and has this next action-packed report. Buckle up and enjoy.
TVP World is about to fly in the air in one of these helicopters of the Icelandic Coast Guard to give you exclusive insight into what it's like to save lives in these difficult waters.
First, a short debrief and safety instructions. We're heading to the sea near a small island to meet a volunteer rescue vessel. There, the officers will pull up 2 people to the helicopter on a special cable to simulate the rescue of stranded sailors. 2 trained divers are coming with us just in case. And now it's go time. As we board the helicopter, the men in the unit are silent and focused. Even though it's just a training mission, you can feel the situation is serious. Anything can go wrong when you're hovering only a dozen meters above the sea in the middle of the night. Suddenly, one of the officers shows me a note on his phone. It's too loud to communicate verbally. The mission changes due to weather conditions. We're doing a simulated mountain rescue instead. As we come back to the base for a short stop, I get the chance to ask the commander why these exercises are so important and why he decided to risk his own life for others for a living.
Well, we try to limit the danger by training. So, of course, there is always some relative dangers in search and rescue operations because it's usually a matter of life and death. So you have to evaluate every time you're scrambled to do something. To start with, when you decide what you want to do, that's one thing. But another thing is to continue after you start. You know, it's cool when you're young to fly helicopters and search and rescue. But when you have you know, tried it and you have been here for years, the best part is, of course, saving people, being able to help.
After our conversation, the commander asks us if we could assist them in their training. We agree to be lowered down on the side of the mountain to simulate climbers in an emergency. As one of the officers opens up the side door, the noise and the wind blown by the aircraft's propeller are rushing inside. It's intense, but we trust these men completely. They've done it a million times in real emergencies. The entire operation lasts no more than a few minutes. We go down and then we're pulled back up. It all goes smoothly, and it's time to head back to the base with northern lights seen through night vision goggles. All right, the mission is over. It was a resounding success. As you can see, we've been rescued from the mountain. Clearly, these guys know what they are doing, and they have to, because the lives of the people of this island and the sailors on the ships nearby depend on it.
The echoes of the Friday Zelensky-Trump meeting in Washington still sound loud and clear, as the meeting did not bring desired outcomes for Ukraine after a surprise phone call between President Trump and Vladimir Putin. Today, the Financial Times reported that Trump urged Zelensky to accept Putin's terms or be destroyed. Elizabeth Braw, senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, joins me now to discuss the Washington meeting and what comes next in light of everything that unraveled. Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining me on the program.
Thank you.
So let's take a look at an excerpt from Financial Times. This is the information that we received within the minutes before World News Tonight went on air. Donald Trump urged Volodymyr Zelensky to accept Russia's terms for ending its war in a volatile White House meeting, warning that Vladimir Putin had said he would destroy Ukraine if it did not agree. The meeting between the U.S. and Ukrainian presidents descended many times into a shouting match, with Trump cursing all the time. Some incredibly worrisome information coming from the Financial Times. What do you make of this?
Well, if it is accurate, what the Financial Times is reporting, obviously we only have this one source, but the Financial Times is a highly credible news outlet, then that is very worrying. And it's almost as if what Donald Trump is referring to is the situation Ukraine faces without Western assistance. But of course, there is Western countries can make a difference. Namely, they can help Ukraine change that situation so that it has a better chance of defending its territory, including the territory that's currently held by the Russians. So it sounds like President Trump has had a significant change of mind since he last spoke about the war in Ukraine. And one can only surmise what might have triggered that change of mind. But the phone call with President Putin, we must assume, has a role in that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that the White House actually expected this piece of information to be leaked to the media? Are we going to see potentially another change in narrative coming from the White House? Or this might be something that we're going to find out in days to come that is actually true, especially considering the meetings between the U.S. and Russian delegations, which are supposed to take place?
Well, we don't know whether the Trump administration suspected or assumed that this might be leaked to the media, but information this important, I think, is just bound to be leaked to the media simply because it's too important to be withheld from a global public. If the US has shifted its position on how and whether to help Ukraine, and indeed is telling Ukraine that the Ukrainian armed forces, the Ukrainian government, should sign some sort of agreement with Russia. Without further attempts to win back territory, then that is a major piece of information. And I think any senior official, policymaker would, of any sort of stature and experience, would realize that such information is likely to be leaked to media.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that President Zelensky should actually accept and give up the occupied territories if this would mean peace for Ukraine?
Well, the people who get to decide are the Ukrainians themselves and President Zelensky, his government, and the parliament. And what we in the West can do is not tell Ukraine what to do, but support the Ukrainians with whatever they need us to support them with, because that's what we would expect from other countries if our own countries, had the misfortune of being attacked and invaded by another country. We would not take kindly to other countries telling us what to do, but we would hope that they would assist us, because it's what one does as a human being when somebody is attacked, and it's what one does as a country, and as a country one has that responsibility under the United Nations Charter.
The general feeling seems to be that over the last few days there's been a lot of confusion when it comes to those talks, those meetings that have taken place. At the NATO General Assembly, President Trump said he is sure Ukraine can win back the land it lost. Now he suggested that Ukraine should let go, that both sides should finish at the finish lines, and now we get this information from the Financial Times, which we need to stress again. This is not yet confirmed, so we need to keep a bit of caution at the back of our heads. What do you think happened during that phone call between Trump and Putin to lead to this conversation that took place at the White House on Friday and to this outcome that we're seeing right now?
So if this information is accurate, again, the Financial Times is a very credible news outlet, but we don't have any other sources describing this meeting yet. But if the information is correct, then again, we must assume that President Putin managed to somehow get points across to President Trump that made him change his mind. As you say, it wasn't that long ago that he said that he thought Ukraine could win back all the territory currently held by Russia. And now he's saying, just sign and cut your losses, sign an agreement and cut your losses. So that is a major shift in thinking. And I think this is the challenge that Western allies or Western countries have, or indeed all countries have, in their conversations, in their dealings with the United States, that it's unclear what the current policy position is at any given moment. Ordinarily, you get the position communicated to you by senior officials, and that is what the president thinks, and that they have collectively made their minds up. But now we are never really sure what the United States position is, and for how long that is going to remain the US position. And for Ukraine, that's obviously a highly undesirable situation to be in, to not know where from one day to the next, where the United States stands on assistance to Ukraine, and indeed on how the war should end.
There's an interesting quote from President Trump that I would like to bring. Quote, "I've been played all my life by the best of them, and I came out really well," Trump said. He added, "I think I'm pretty good at this stuff." Do you agree with Donald Trump, or is Donald Trump being played by Vladimir Putin for time?
Well, there is... Donald Trump is clearly good at negotiations, but there is a difference between somebody who has conducted business negotiations for a long time and uses what he knows from that field in the world of politics, and somebody who has been the leader of a major country for a quarter century. Vladimir Putin has seen a lot of Western leaders come and go. He has outlasted them all, also because Russia is not a democracy. But he has outlasted them all. He has seen a lot of them. He has been in many talks, negotiations, and so forth. I mean, he's an old fox. He is a clever man, and we shouldn't respect him, but we should bear in mind, we as Western countries, in our talks and negotiations, dealings with him, that there is a reason he has lasted that long, because it's not for lack of other alternatives within Russia. He has managed to retain his position. Despite Russia not being a democracy, there have been opportunities for others to unseat him. He has been in power for 25 years, or even longer at this point, and he has seen a lot of Western leaders. He knows how to deal with them, and clearly he is using those skills to his advantage.
Elizabeth, very quickly, just to finish off, if invited, do you think that Zelensky should go to Budapest, or is there a risk that Budapest is going to become Anchorage 2.0?
I think, well, first of all, it's up to President Zelensky, and if there is a meaningful conversation to be had in Budapest, and first of all, if President Putin decides to speak with or negotiate with President Zelensky directly, then there may be reason to go. But as we all know, President Putin has refused all this time to negotiate directly with President Zelensky because he views him as not a legitimate leader, because he doesn't view Ukraine as a legitimate country. So if he were to decide to view him as a legitimate leader with whom he is willing to negotiate, then there may be gains to be won in going to Budapest. But I think that's a question that still has not been answered.
And unfortunately, we'll have to put a full stop there. Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining me. Elizabeth Ross, Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council, was my guest on World News Tonight. And so this would be all for now. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm Klaudia Czerwińska, and I hope to see you back here on TVP World for more news and features in just a moment.